It's that time of year again. There's a new year on the horizon, there's holiday cheer in the air, and there's Christmas presents and imagery and songs and hats that are too small for your head, so you just want to get this over with. And on top of all of that holiday goodness, there's going to be a new Star Wars movie out in theatres this year. So you know what that means? It's time to learn. Don't look at me like that. I bet you were one of those kids who always complained whenever you got homework over the holidays. You would just let your brain turn to mush if education wasn't mandated by the state. You know, you've got it easy now. Once you get past school, you have to learn something new every day in a little piece of homework called real life. Disappointed in you. Never fear, there's a team called Lucas Learning who made a bunch of games that combine education and Star Wars. Although their games came out in the late 90s and early 2000s, so most of them are based on the Phantom Menace. Lucas Learning made a whole bunch of educational Star Wars games for PC, but they were soon dissolved after they made Super Bombad Racing for the PlayStation 2, so they sure got an education and not wandering too far from your comfort zone, if you know what I'm saying.
First game we're looking at is going to be Star Wars Math. Jabba's Game Galaxy. In this game, you find yourself in a crash too epic to show up on my captured footage, and that leaves you stranded on Tatooine. The will of the Force, or at least brand recognition, leads you into Watto's shop to buy a new ship, but you don't have any money. Luckily, Watto knows how you can get some.
So you had a bit of a rough landing, I think. Too bad for you, huh? New ships don't come cheap. I suggest you pay a visit to Jabba's Game Plaza. You could win some credits if you're very, very lucky.
Wait, did he say credits? I thought credits were supposed to be worthless out here. Hey, Lucas Learning, did you rewatch the movie before you made this game? I mean, I guess I can't blame you if you didn't. And this game must take place before the Phantom Menace, so maybe in canon, the character of this game was so red hot on the Tatooine game scene that he took all the money and left the planet in a depression, needing a new currency.
Here's a datapad. If you have any questions about anything, use this to talk with my droid, Zeppo.
Hi, welcome to Tatooine. CP70 at your service, but please call me Zeppo. All my friends do.
CP70 it is then.
Don't forget to have Watto give you a map of the city.
Okay, got the map. It's time to hit the tents. Let's have some mass-related fun with these gangsters before they all burn to death horribly in pod racing crashes.
Excuse me. Greetings. My name is Timto. This is Dijato.
You're who and this is what now?
Timto. This is Dijato.
Okay, sorry, I didn't catch that again. Let's just call it Tombola of the Dancing Bingo Balls for sake of argument. So here's the deal. You and
Timto
get the same 4 random numbers one at a time, and you have to place 3 of them on these slots to make a 3-digit number, and then you put one of them in this little cage and watch as they collapse into a depression since their one reason for existing was stolen away from them. The goal changes every time, but you either want to make the highest or lowest number, or get as close as possible to a target number. It's a pretty simple game, but our friend,
Timto
over here gets to Noel Edmonds levels of melodramatic about this, constantly pausing and getting lost in thought about his own moves.
Excuse me. Where should it go? How about here?
He even does this on the last ball where there's only one place it could possibly go. I mean, come on man, it's not poker, don't turn this into psychological warfare, just make it move. It's alright for kids in terms of problem solving and breaking larger numbers down into hundreds and tens and ones, and showing them what difference moving integers between them makes. But it's a little too slow and boring for how simple it is, and a lot of games end up in draws as you and
Timto
both go for the only logical move, and let's face it, there's only 24 possibilities to begin with. Okay, good, now that we've put some real mass-based content in this video, I can get away with a bit about cartoon frogs coming up. Now we have dueling dice with Siboba. Roll the dice, do the math, count the droids one by one as you add them. You could put up to 30 droids in your rack, and the closest to 30 wins, but if you go over 30 then you instantly lose, so you have to be careful on when you stop. Outside of some very basic arithmetic, this game feels almost entirely based on luck, but it is fun to watch all the losing droids dunked back into the hellhole they came from, while all the winners dematerialise into salvation. Next up is Rats Race, which is looking a lot more complicated than the other games so far, so I better get Rats to teach me how to play first.
If you know the answer, enter it here using your computer keyboard.
Sorry, what?
When you're done,
Can you speak?
it's always a
Can't
good
hear
idea
you.
to use
The
those
frog.
cute
The
little
frogs,
tubes
mate.
to prove your answer.
What? Maybe it'd be easier if I just explained the rules. Basically it's Trivial Pursuit, but with math problems instead of general knowledge questions. Hit the spinner, move around the board, solve a problem on the space you land on, get it right and earn a puzzle piece of the colour of the space you landed on. Get a piece from every colour to head towards the middle of the board and then you win the game. To help out the younglings, there's these frogs that you can add or subtract to figure out the problem one step at a time. Okay, so take this head scratcher. Is 13 higher, lower, or the same as 13? Okay, so add some balance on those frogs. Add too many frogs. You've got a few of those. Scratch on some of those. Take off the frogs. What are these even frogs? It's Star Wars. They could be a civilized...
Why is this so hard?
Even though I got every single answer right, Rat still won the game because he got luckier on his spins than I did, so he was able to get to the middle faster. But that's fine, now I'm not even slightly mad. I mean, fair play to you, Rats. Let's hope you have that luck when it really counts. Next. The last of the core games is HoloChex with Jabba the Hutt. It's essentially like checkers, but on a smaller board where there's fewer potential moves to make it any one time. You take pieces by hopping over them to an empty space, but you're forced to take any piece that you can, so the trick is to get into situations where your opponent is forced to take one of your pieces, putting them in a position where you can take several of theirs at once. It works fine, but it has the same issue as actual checkers, where chasing down your opponent's last piece can take forever, and with the limited movement it's even more prone to draws. But overall it's a good exercise in situational awareness and thinking ahead. Well, that's all the games on the floor. They're generally okay, but the package as a whole has two major flaws. First off, all the games are based on chance to some extent, and that makes a lot of sense since probability offers a lot of opportunities for counting and basic arithmetic, as well as being the easiest way to gamify maths without turning it into homework where you shoot the correct answers with a gun or whatever. The problem is, this means you're going to end up losing a lot of times through no fault of your own, and that might be really frustrating for younger children. And that leads us straight into problem number 2. Like, step back from this for a second and just take a look at what this all is. It's a collection of rooms where you offer up money to play games of chance with the goal of winning more money. I mean, what would you call that? Oh yeah, a Casio. A casino. I'm sorry, but that's what it is. I mean, that Sebulba game is basically just blackjack with dice. Fairly early on in the game, you get enough money where you can buy a functioning ship, and then you can fly out to space to shoot rocks and collect junk and stuff, but you only do it to get more money to hit the slots again. I thought the entire point of the game was to get off the planet, but they've already got their hooks into you. You've got the betting bug. You will never leave. It is slightly concerning to see gambling with slave-owning gangsters presented so uncritically to children. I mean, they seem nice enough. You play some fun games and you get money for it. It's like a dream. I mean, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Something tells me that the Jabba's Game Galaxy establishment has a somewhat limited lifespan. Ah yeah, that's the stuff. Let's get away from the prequels for a bit and get back to the classics with Star Wars Droid Works, the first game Lucas Learning ever put out, and the only one to come out before Episode 1. No, stop! Boo! You didn't get the font right on the opening text? That is an instant fail. An instant fail! Even I got the font right, and I'm on a YouTube budget.
My word, I hardly recognize you. This young rebel makes an excellent Jawa. Don't you agree, R2?
Hello there.
This is Hola Cammy. You may call her Cammy for short. Cammy can provide you with help and hints if you...
Are you furious? Another annoying robot helper? Were there not enough robots in Star Wars for you, Lucas Learning? Stop making up your own stuff. You're going to make Wikipedia explode. In Droid Works, you work on droids. You build your droid, get it looking how you want, give it a name, and then you hit the courses. It's a little finicky though, and that's actually a recurring problem with all of the Lucas Learning games I played. There's a lot of clicking and dragging, and it demands you to be a little too precise. When I was growing up, my mum worked at home as a childminder, so I've had to help a lot of little kids figure out the basics on educational games before, and believe me, they don't take too easily to clicking and dragging a mouse. Unless you're assuming a parent will be doing most of the control on behalf of the child, you might want to keep this stuff down to a minimum. The courses in Droid Works are basically like little puzzles. You make your droid and you drive it around and then you scan the area. Usually to clear the course your droid will need some specific function, so you head back to the droid creator and you adjust accordingly. Like, Sonic has legs here, so he can't make it over this gap. So I head back to base, make something with wheels, and woo! Over it goes. Not really sure what to do with these boxes though. I'm pretty sure I've got the right droid for the job, but I can't seem to do much and the frame rate is dying and... Ah, shit.
Yeah, that was an issue in making this video. Most of the Lucas Learning games are hard to find and even harder to get running or stay running. Most of them never got any kind of re-release, and none of the PC games were on any digital platforms. So with that in mind, here's a quick look at all the games they made that I wasn't able to record.
First up is the Gungan Frontier, which came out the same week as the Phantom Menace, so we could call it the official movie tie-in game. You know, better this than that. It takes place on Naboo, and you're basically in charge of developing and maintaining the ecosystem. I mean, I don't know if it's any good or not, but it sounds like a great thing for kids. Apparently it even features non-natural environmental disasters, and the damage they cause to plants and animals. I mean, I can't endorse it without playing it, but we'll give the concept 4 Boffin Spies out of 5. Then there's the stuff that Lucas Learning made for really little kids. There's the Early Learning Activity Center, which seems to have gone the way of Alderaan, because I can't find a gosh dang thing about it. There's Jar Jar's Journey, which seems to be an interactive children's book with some generic mini-games flopped into it. And then there's Anakin Speedway, where I can only find about 3 minutes of footage of the game from StarWarsMedia.com.
I love to go fast. If you click on this button, you can pick a track on another planet. Cool, huh?
Cool, huh?
And finally, there's Pit Droids, which actually did get a re-release in 2012 on iOS, around the time The Phantom Menace 3D was in theaters. It seems to be a fairly standard puzzle game, but it looks like solid bite-sized gaming, and that's well suited to mobile devices, so whatever. We'll give it, that guy's head out of that guy's head. But now we're past all the baby stuff, it's time to ramp it up for the finale, and we must answer the call to take on Yoda's challenge. That's my challenge? No, I'm sorry. No, I told you I can't do the Yoda voice. Like, who wrote that in? I told you I can't do the Yoda voice. It's another minigame collection, but without a coherent theme or learning objective like Star Wars Math. It's just 6 unconnected minigames that you pick from a menu. You know you're in trouble when the opening text crawl can't even stretch itself out to a 3rd paragraph. This amount of text doesn't even justify doing the crawl at all. You could just shoved all the key information into the logo and left it. Whatever, let's go through these. First up is Race at Feed. It's a one-on-one race between Jar Jar on his chicken dinosaur thing and Queen Amidala on her space cougar. It sounds like Star Wars to me. Basically, there's multiple paths that you can take with different obstacles in the way. Jar Jar is faster over lakes and swamps, but the space cougar is better at tackling mountains and forests. So you're supposed to figure out the best path for your racer, taking into account the obstacles and the lengths and the shape of the paths. So once again, it's a test of basic problem solving. You gotta think ahead and consider whether it's better to take a longer route rather than getting stuck on the top of some conveniently placed mountains. And you've gotta do all that while an extremely excited announcer yells about it.
And the Queen is on the home stretch. It can go. What a race we have here today on the... And the winner is Queen Amidala. We're about...
Next up, explore the Gungan Caves. It's a first-person dungeon crawler where you're given directions you have to follow so you can find some treasure. For kids, it's a good way to learn your lefts from your rights, as well as north, east, west, south, as well as just basic spatial awareness. But playing it as an adult, it's anything but exciting. I mean, I'm just following directions to collect a bunch of stuff. What is this? An Assassin's Creed game? Let's get out of the caves and into the forest to trap some droids. Okay, so some droids from the Trade Federation have strayed off, and it's your job to set off these traps by listening to drums and then repeating the beat perfectly. So it's kind of like Donkey Konga crossed with Simon. I may regret bringing this up, but how can there be stray droids? Aren't they all supposed to go inactive as soon as their command ship blows up? Wasn't that the entire plot of that movie? Well, either way, they're not getting any orders, because their default setting seems to be to run through this trap-ridden path one at a time. It would be okay, but this game is so slow, and the gap between each drum beat is so long it's easy to fall out of rhythm, and that just kills a game like this. Sticking with music, let's head back to Tatooine to hang out with the Cantina Band. This game is all about matching the notes on the sheet music using the keys, but you can also go freeform and record your own songs. It's really impressive for a minigame, honestly. It's well presented, there's a ton of different instruments to play with, and there's constant feedback. It's kind of disappointing that they didn't expand on it more. Like, with some more explaining of what everything means and some more advanced musical stuff included, you probably could have used this to teach kids how to read proper sheet music. Unscrambling Queen Amidala's computer. She broke her computer and I have to fix it. Finally, someone made a game about what it's like growing up as a tech-literate person in a working-at-home single-mother environment. Aren't video games brilliant? All this one is arranging the shapes to make a bigger shape. Put this in there, put that there. Where does this big triangle go? I know, I'll try spinning. That's a good trick. But seriously, I actually played a lot of this one. I mean, it's not going to win any prizes for innovation, but I like this sort of stuff. You know, what can I say? I'm not that hard to please. I'm the sort of person who gets excited when Pokemon Picross gets announced. You're telling me I can arrange some shapes inside a bigger shape to make a Star Wars shape with some trivia? Sold. Okay, last one, and it's Program C-3PO, or Kipo as I call him since we're such good friends. You're clicking and dragging words to make up stories, and it's an exercise in basic sentence structure. Kids are given hints by the shape of the gaps in the sentence, and to help them with reading, C-3PO will say every word you click on out loud.
Yeah. It's a good mix, but it's lacking that little something, just that little thing. Hey, put the Cantina band under this.
Once again, it's not very interesting for an adult who already knows good English in that. But it is interesting to have a C-3PO that you can make say whatever you want.
Queen Amidala knelt down before Boss Nass Jar Jar heard coming.
Well, that's Yoda's challenge. I wish it wasn't so disjointed and didn't feel so much like 6 completely unrelated random ideas flopped onto a disc. But for what it's worth, it's got genuine educational merit on the whole. The games are simple and they're enjoyable, and they don't have the frustration that Star Wars Math had, and it's well presented with basic but appealing graphics, and there's lots of difficulty options and variations.
And that's all of the Lucas Learning educational games. I don't think there's anything to be learned from looking at Super Bombard Racing other than if you're thinking of doing something like this. Don't. They had their ups and downs, but broadly speaking they did their job. I mean, across all those packages we got a good spectrum of games that taught you maths and English and problem solving and spatial awareness and even music. Look, what I'm saying is there's no harm to these things as long as they work. I mean, if we're all going to be slaves to the corporate world and the constant milking of beloved franchises, we may as well use their appeal to teach our kids how to read.
What?
Look, okay, I know it's not the best end-of-year Christmas message, but I talk about video games on YouTube. What do you want out of me? You're not going to get a Christmas Carol. Whatever, just have a happy holidays, enjoy the new Star Wars movie, and, you know, maybe learn to appreciate what you have in life.
I'm Han Solo, I'm Han Solo.